Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lions Grid. I am Kevin Marhini, joined by, as always, Jeffrey Raymond. Jeffrey, how are you doing on this Sunday morning?
Doing good. A little chilly, but ready to roll here. The leaves are turning in my area. It's a beautiful time here. Love fall.
And of course, with it being fall, football is in full swing, Jeffrey. And it almost feels a little bit like deja vu because last week we had a early London game with the Jaguars, and here we are again, another Sunday, another Jacksonville Jaguars game over in London. The difference being, at least here at halftime, Jacksonville up 22-10 currently in that
Oh,
game.
yeah. The Patriots got to a 10-0 lead there, I think, and then all the scoring came in the second quarter for the Jaguars. So
They went on a run there. You don't necessarily think of football as a game of runs, but they have the momentum. We'll have to see if they can
I
keep that going
really
in the
hope
second half.
that if they get to a blowout status, they have a play for Mac Jones for the revenge game kind of thing going. I
Trotting
think that
bag
would be
out there.
hilarious.
I wonder though if it is as much like, obviously, he was the Patriots starting quarterback, and so they're like, yeah, they're still the Patriots, but like without Bill Belichick being there, do you think he would get like the same satisfaction as if Bill was still out there as
Uh,
the coach? Or do you think it's like just
I don't know. I guess I'm projecting because I would definitely would. I'd be like, yeah, he'll be out there, coach.
yeah, it's probably like the difference between having just a Sunday and then having that Sunday with like the cherry on top. Having Bill
Yes,
Belichick out there might be the cherry, but like
yes.
it's still a Sunday, right? Like it's still good. It's not bad.
I don't know, man. I think he's got PTSD from having Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. So, I,
Yeah. Maybe that maybe that would actually be the
yeah,
cherries if it was against Matt Patricia.
Matt
He could
Patricia. Oh my gosh,
get some revenge there because
what
yeah.
is he even doing right now? Is he still with the Eagles?
Let's see. I have no idea what he is up to
I
nowadays.
bet he still has a job in the
Somewhere
league.
in the NFL currently.
Yes.
I don't know. I think I think is he still with the Eagles? He may still be with the Eagles.
Okay. Well, he'll probably get kicked out of there when Sirianni's gone at the end of the season. Hopefully, they
Probably.
know what's really
Probably.
good.
I mean, I think he's with the Eagles still as a senior defensive assistant.
Yikes!
So, their defense has not looked as good as they have.
Yikes!
I don't know. He very well could be part of the changing of the guard there should something happen with Nick Sirianni. It's kind of interesting. I wonder how the connection is, how he went from being, with the Patriots, like, because Nick Sirianni isn't necessarily part of the Bill Belichick like coaching tree. So I wonder how he you know found a home there in Philadelphia after being let go by the Patriots.
He must have some kind of like really good like interview line or something that really just gets the interviewer just like, okay, I believe in this guy despite everything else.
You know,
He's got
it's,
yeah.
it's just like pride by the teams that bring him in. They're like, nah, he struggled with those other teams, but it was because of those other organizations. It was their fault, not Matt Patricia. He's a good coach, and we're a good organization, so it'll work out here.
I also freelance as offensive coordinator if you need it.
He's such a good defensive coordinator that he can be an offensive
Yeah, that's
coordinator.
right.
He just put himself in the mind of the offense. It's a feature, not a flaw,
That's
Jeffrey. Well, Jeffrey, one of the more exciting matchups on the day, and the matchup we're here to talk about, is the 1 o'clock showdown between the undefeated 5-0 Minnesota Vikings and our 4-1 Detroit Lions. Big game here, Jeffrey. The Lions, they've been on a roll, thanks in large part to solid play out of Jared Goff. He's now thrown for over 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns on the season. The Lions have now found themselves as the top offense in terms of points per game with 30.2 points as their average on the season, currently number one. And a big part of that has been Jamison Williams, who's definitely taken a step forward this year, Waymo or JMO, whichever one of the nicknames you want to go with, leading the team with 365 yards. And then our leading rusher, despite both him and David Montgomery playing really well, is Jahmyr Gibbs, 348 yards on the ground. So we've seen great stuff out of this Lions offense. And of course, we know we've seen good things out of the Lions defense. but there's a little bit more of a question mark there. We know this is our first game post the Aiden Hutchinson injury. So, uh, yeah, Lions have looked good over the last few weeks, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think on the offensive side of the ball, we're going up against the Vikings. Only allowed 15.2 points a game, which is pretty crazy. But they've not played an offense like us yet, so we'll kind of see how well they kind of play against this kind of elite attack here. But with it being Aiden Hutchinson's first game out after breaking his leg, it's going to be interesting to see how the defense responds, because this is a
Mhm.
pretty big piece of adversity early on. You're going up against like your first, not necessarily the first hardest competition, but like for the division here, you're not with
Yep.
your main dude. Like I'll be interested to see what the kind of because we always kind of praise Dan Campbell and the culture and everything that he built. Like
Mhm.
this is going to be a big test of how well that culture really is, I think.
Yeah, I think this could be a good game too for like them to do like a measuring stick game for them. They're going to see like, can we get this done by changing the scheme, maybe getting creative with blitzes and the people we have in house, or are we going to need to go externally to help get some sort of pass rush to make up for the loss of Hutchinson. So I think this is going to be an important game for the Lions, and they'll sort of do that. Like this game will help them figure out: do we need to go out and get people, or can we get it done with the pieces we have already? And hopefully, what we'll see. I know we saw it out of David Montgomery last week. He got his extension and came out and balled out for the Lions. Alan McNeil got extended this week. So hopefully we see him step up, say, hey, thank you for the money. I'm going to come out here, do this for 97, and put some pressure on Sam Darnold here through the interior of the line. So hopefully that's what we see, Jeffrey. But certainly, I mean, in addition to the loss of Aiden Hutchinson, we're also down Davenport and Derek Barnes, who outside of Aiden Hutchinson, that's our second and third leading pass rushers out there. So over the course of 3 weeks, the pass rush for the Lions is now drastically different than it was a few weeks ago. So it's going to be interesting to see, what the defense does. So we'll see that in action. And then on the other side of things, Jeffrey, we have the Vikings offense. Of course, Sam Darnold is leading this. Him and Kevin O'Connell are having this renaissance season where he's looking like the quarterback that was promised all those years ago when he was drafted by the Jets. It still blows my mind that he's younger than Joe Burrow. Just the way that college football has changed with like the transfer portal and like the COVID year and just all that. It's just crazy that you can have a quarterback that's been in the league for as long as Sam Darnold has and have him being younger than what's seen as like the new guard at quarterback.
Yeah,
It's
speaking of PTSD for Mac Jones, I mean, very similar to Mac Jones, he was thrown into an absolute garbage situation from the get-go, and it's good to see the renaissance.
It is, and he's looked good. He has thrown. Of course, they had a bye week last week, but through his first 5 games, he is. Of course, so has Jared Goff. So we're looking at an even body of work. But through his first 5 games, Sam Darnold has thrown for just over 1,100 yards on the season with 11 touchdowns. So fewer yards, more touchdowns. Aaron Jones has been leading the ground game for the Vikings with 350 rushing yards. But he is questionable heading in today. I think I've seen that he's likely to play in the game, but he is coming off an injury there, so his effectiveness will certainly be something to see. And of course, the Lions' run defense, we'll have to see how it looks without Hutchinson. But traditionally here we've been very stout against the run. And then, as you mentioned, Jeffrey, that Vikings defense has been fantastic. But one thing they have been is really reliant on turnovers. Like in some of the games where they've come out and beat other good teams, like when they beat the Packers, they had a pick 6 in that game. So I think we'll talk a little bit here about the keys to victory. But if we can limit those turnovers and take care of the football, I think that is another way. This defense has sort of thrived on that and putting this offense into positions where they can capitalize on opportunities. So it's a big game here, Jeffrey. It has major playoff implications for both teams about number one, who can be the king of the North, but also, we're looking at a wild card race where we'll do a roaring or boring segment here in a little bit, but it isn't it's not inconceivable that we may see multiple teams from the NFC North in the NFC playoff bracket this year. So, whether it's for the NFC North or just a win to help get in as a wild card team, this is a big game for both teams.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's so early into the season here. But it's at the Vikings, so that's going to make
Mhm.
it even more of a difficult time to kind of get get it going. Because I know they're going to be fired up because Minnesota, another. I'm speaking of another team who's gone through some pain. Minnesota, their fan base is itching for something good to happen here, and it's exciting.
Yeah, they came really close during the Kirk Cousin years, and they got a taste for it, and it certainly has only gotten now I think this was supposed to be like a down year for them, but the fact that they have looked so good and they're one of two undefeated teams in the NFL currently, expectations are high. And interesting, Jeffrey. This is I think definitely if you look across the board, I think all indicators show that the Vikings should be favored in this game. It is an uphill battle, I think, for the Lions. But interestingly enough, the spread is only 1 point, despite the Vikings being the home team in this game. So it's a very it's a very close game here. And if we take a look at some of the key injuries, obviously we know about the several Lions that are out for the season, so they don't actually show up in the injury report because they're already on IR. That being Hutchinson, Davenport, Barnes. But in terms of the sort of week to week injuries, we have Christian Mahogany. He's out again due to illness. We have Carlton Davis the third. He's questionable heading into this game with a quad injury, and Kevin Zeitler is also questionable with a groin injury. Mind you, questionable is I think they can either be questionable or doubtful are the two things they can be heading into the week. So
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything saying that Davis and Zeitler won't play in this game, so I expect them to be out there. But on Minnesota side of things, two guys that were pretty interesting there. TJ Hawkinson, he had started his practice window coming off of his return from IR, but he is not returning this week, so he's been downgraded to out. So we won't be seeing TJ Hawkinson in this game. Probably we were joking, saw Kirby Joseph and the Lions being
yeah.
the game to come back,
He's
and he
like,
said,
ooh, yeah. We'll
I'll pass.
still a little raw, coach. We'll start again next week.
And we'll ease in, not against the team and the guy that put me out. And then another big injury here is Dalton Risner, the guard. So that interior of the Vikings offensive line suffering injury there with Dalton Risner out. And then you also have Blake Cashman out and Akilib Evans out. And then, as I mentioned, you have Aaron Jones, who's questionable heading into the game, Pat Jones, and Harrison Phillips for the Vikings, all questionable. So the big ones, again, I think Dalton Risner and TJ Hawkinson not being there. As good as the Vikings offense has been, I am sort of happy that they don't have TJ Hawkinson out there to trot out as a new option against us, especially having had a bye week to prepare for us.
Mhm.
So, yeah, good. That's what we have on the injury front. And then, Jeffrey, I think one of the most important matchups to watch in this game is going to be Penei Sewell and company versus Jonathan Greenard, the linebacker slash pass rusher for the Vikings. Outside of Aiden Hutchinson, he is one of the two guys in the NFL this season that has been averaging at least 5 pressures on a QB per game. So he's getting a ton of pressure on quarterbacks. And really, Brian Flores and this Vikings defense, that's part of the reason they've been able to create so many turnovers is that they've been putting quarterbacks into tough positions, forcing them to make decisions that they don't typically like to do. And so Jonathan Greenard has been a big part of the success that this Vikings defense has had. And of course, we know Penei Sewell is he is one of our franchise building blocks. He is part of the foundation of this Lions team. He has time and time again come through for us. And here we are again, putting him up against another marquee pass rusher. And it's going to be a battle to watch all day.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian Flores, he sends a lot of pressure, so he's
Mhm.
going to be blitzing at a high rate. So Penei Sewell is going to have to do, he's going to have to hold up his end of the bargain, especially because we this year Goff has been very good actually against pressure and against blitz rate, but he hasn't in the past. So he's definitely going to be like he's going to be on fire today as far as like the kind of heat he's going to get.
Mhm.
So it will be, yeah, Penei Sewell is going to have to be that guy again here. And as far as I guess other players to watch, I'll take a look at. I think it's important for Tim Patrick to kind of keep doing what he has been doing. He's been getting involved in the passing game. He's been doing his job on the blocking end, which Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson, they like themselves some wide receivers who are willing to go down there and block, kind of thing. So
Oh yeah.
just him integrating himself to the offense is just I think it is good because we do need a good like 3-4 kind of option as far as the receiving. I know Sam Laporta got his first tutty last week, but something there outside of JMO, the run game, and the apparent slot merchant in Amon-Ra St. Brown. Just some other option out there because, I think we're going to have to rely on our offense a little bit more now that the defense is going to have to try a bit harder here without Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a question mark about what this defense is going to look like. What is their ceiling now, and what is their sort of floor with Hutchinson gone? It's hard to tell. So this, of course, against a Vikings team that has been performing very well on the offense as well as the defense, is going to be sort of, again, I think, a good measuring stick to see, hey, can we make scheme adjustments? Can we get creative with the play calling and where we're bringing pressure from to be able to sort of, you're not going to replace Aiden Hutchinson, even if you go out and bring in like one of the guys. Well, I guess if you go ham and you bring in like a Max Crosby or a Myles Garrett, like one of the two other top 5 pass rushers, like I guess at that point in time, maybe you can recreate Hutchinson. He's definitely was off to a blistering start, and I think was sort of really establishing himself as the top candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. But those are 2 other guys who can produce at that level. So in that case, like if you go all in and you bring them in, yeah, maybe you can recreate it. But like otherwise, like unless you're bringing in one of the elite pass rushers in the league, you're really not going to be able to recreate the production you were seeing out of Aiden Hutchinson. It's not feasible. So you're going to have to try and like augment that in other ways. So again, I think it'll be interesting to see, do the Lions have the ability to do that with the pieces they have currently, or are they going to have to look to add in another piece, whether that be one of the other elite pass rushers that we've heard floated around, or if it's, picking up maybe some, we talked about last week, maybe finding a couple of veteran pass rushers that are out there that are on those 1-year rental deals that you could bring in to maybe give you a couple of different options so that, hey, you plug those guys in along with those scheme things you're doing. Maybe then you get something that looks a little closer to what you had with Hutchinson, without, of course, perfectly recreating it. So it'll be interesting to see. And then, Jeffrey, keys to victory. I know you talked about their Penei Sewell and, of course, the pressure that this Vikings defense is going to bring. Part of that, I think, is a lot of the pre-snap stuff that Brian Flores does. He has when he's up there, he does, his defense is doing quite a bit. So I think one of the keys to this game is going to be Goff's ability and this offensive line's ability to come up to the line of scrimmage and be able to diagnose what is actually happening up there. And because if they can tell where the pressure is coming from, and Goff can figure out where, like if he can figure out that, hey, I got JMO over here one-on-one and I can hit him and he can go off to the races. I think that, if they have the ability to win against the blitz, it's going to be by their ability to recognize what's going on pre-snap and be able to see what Brian Flores is doing. So that's going to be the mind games in this one. The mental is going to be a big part of this game. And so it's going to be interesting to see, how well Goff, Ben Johnson, and this offense have done preparing for this game, because Brian Flores has been outstanding so far this season.
Yeah, and I also think our general concept on offense is a lot of motion, and that does help kind of stymie super aggressive defenses, because they have to be kind of mindful for the motion dude who's going to be running at full speed by the time the play gets snapped. So you have to kind of, on their end, they have to try to change their coverage too based on who they're running. Are they currently in a man shell? Are they in a more of a cover shell? That kind of thing. So I think it'll be it's going to be a good matchup to see.
And we have Blade commenting here on YouTube. Hello, Blade. Welcome to the show. I watched the Vikings Jets highlights over again, and besides a 7 look, send everyone linebackers back out blitz. they do a few times a game. Pressure up in Darnold's face is key, in my opinion, too. And definitely, I think, I mean, really, we've seen it with all QBs. Even Tom Brady, the great one, the GOAT, didn't like being pressured. No one likes being hit. And so finding ways to get that pressure on Sam Darnold are going to be important. Again, hopefully we see Alan McNeil again be like, hey, I got that bag. Let me come out here and perform. And he can apply some pressure up the middle. That would be fantastic. And yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how Aaron Glenn, how he adapts and maybe some of the things that he does from a play calling perspective to get that pressure on there, knowing that we are down again, a guy who was the leading defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah, that continuity with our coaching staff now is working for us here. It's good to have kind of these guys who were here last year with us here to kind of help kind of get through it.
Yeah, and that was one of our other keys here we had for victory. So appreciate Blade bringing that one up. The dialing up that interior pressure and finding a way to pressure Sam Darnold is going to be important. And then we touched about this one already too, Jeffrey. But winning that turnover battle. If again the Vikings defense has definitely and offense has sort of taken advantage of that defense getting the takeaways and then that offense turning those takeaways into points. If the Vikings don't, they've had 2 pick sixes already this season. So
Yeah.
They oftentimes will convert those turnovers directly into points themselves. So I think I know I was watching because one of the big topics in the NFL right now is the NFC North the best division in the NFL? You've seen a lot of the different media covering that, and that was sort of one of the critiques that a couple of people had was that as good as these NFC North defenses have been, several of them have been very dependent on the turnovers. So and turnovers are always great, but they're not. You can't count on turnovers, right? They're not a statistic where it's always in your control. You're relying on the opponent to make mistakes, and sometimes there's just lucky, fluky stuff that happens. So, are these defenses really this good, or are they just currently having an ability where they're just getting more turnovers? And if those turnovers dry up, are these defenses as good? So it'll be interesting to see if Jared Goff and these in the Lions can take care of the football. If this Vikings defense looks as good, if we handle the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and then,
thanks, Blade. Appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, and going with if the Lions can stay ahead of the sticks offensively, I think we'll be just fine. It's simple: run the ball and stop the run. Appreciate again the sentiment there about the game day, and yeah, Jeffrey, I think that's the other big thing. Jared Goff has looked fantastic over the last few weeks when he's been able to do play action. So our final key to victory here is again just establishing that run early. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, you have 2 great options there. You have an offensive line that is fantastic at opening up holes. If we can, as Blade points out there, stay ahead of the sticks, have 3rd and short to go to convert, put ourselves in good opportunities against this Vikings defense. I think that Jared Goff and this Lions offense can do the job and lead us to a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. When our main engine's running, that with Montgomery kind of being the main driving force of controlling the ball, we're hard to stop regardless. So hope to see more of that.
Absolutely. If we could, if every drive, or at least a majority of the drives, could look like that drive we saw in overtime against the Rams, where they just took the ball, called game, and just ran it down their throats, like that would be. I mean, that is NFC North football at its finest, right there. That is the black and blue division, just to a T. So we'll have to see if Sonic and Knuckles can get it done there. I still like Rhythm and Bruise better than Sonic and Knuckles, but it's still good. Still good. All right, Jeffrey. Before we lock in our picks for the game here, we'll go to our roaring or boring segment, Jeffrey. And so one player that we haven't mentioned so far, who is definitely a star player for the Vikings, is Justin Jefferson. And he has historically had some pretty good games against this Lions secondary.
Has he ever not had 100-yard receiving game against us? I feel like every time he goes off.
Well, that's what we need our stat department going for that one. But it's funny you mentioned 100 yards because I have for you here, Jeffrey, as our first roaring or boring topic. The Lions hold Justin Jefferson to under 100 yards receiving.
Oh, boring. I can't.
Oh,
He is. He's such a good receiver that even if we are winning big, he's going to be pulling his quarterback out of situations just because he can. He's that guy, right? He's going to be catching in double, triple coverage. He's going to be getting open. He's regardless of how it goes. I don't think it's not whether we can stop him. Can we contain him enough to not have him turn those into scores?
yeah. Can you limit the damage when he does get the ball is going to be important. Tackling, of course, because he is definitely a guy that can take what looks like a routine pass to the house, and it can be a problem.
I mean, you
It
saw
can
what
be a
happened on
problem.
Thanksgiving last year. Him just absolutely beasting at the end.
But, we do have Kirby Joseph. We do have
Mhm.
Brian Branch. Brian Branch said before the game that he's ready. It's that dog meets dog out there.
Yes.
So they are ready. They know what they're up against, but they are ready to throw down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this battle. But can they keep him under 100 yards? I guess I'll have to say boring too. I could see him get over. It probably will happen. He'll probably get over 100 yards because he's just that good. Um, yeah, yeah. Checking in with Blade here again. The Vikings D were feasting third and long, and Darnold struggled in third and long versus the Jets. So I'm not too worried. Yep. Again, I think that's the sort of the recipe for success there. As you know, put them stop ourselves from being in bad positions offensively and
Mhm.
put them in bad positions defensively. And then I think it is probably too late to buy Sega stock. I'm not even sure if Sega is a standalone company anymore or if they are fully purchased by someone else.
Oh yeah, I guess I
Pretty
don't know.
interesting. I'm not 100% sure, but I better get a Sega Dreamcast too
Yeah, right.
in the Super Bowl. If I mean, yeah, bringing out especially now with Xbox no longer being part of the console wars, could you see Sega come out and just be like, "Hey,
Sega coming out from the top rope with a new console for the first time in decades. That would be crazy.
yeah." Hopefully, of course, yeah. Hopefully, it does happen after the Super Bowl win, because then that would be a sad piece of history. As a stat. Yeah, the Sega Dreamcast 2 came out before the Lions won the Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
right. Yeah.
Ow. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, Jeffrey. So, next question here for you. And this one is kind of a which one of these gets you roaring, because we have heard a number of names tossed out there as potential trade targets or replacements, however you kind of want to look at it. I think for some of them it's trade targets. For others, like Max Crosby and Myles Garrett, those I think could be not necessarily replacements, but at least they're players of the same caliber as Aiden Hutchinson. But which one of those names gets you the most excited? Is it Max Crosby making the return home?
It
Is
is.
it Myles
It
Garrett,
is.
Hassan Reddick, or the field? I know the field includes things like Zadarius Smith. There's the Giants end that performed well last week. So there's Trey Hendrickson with Cincinnati. There's some other names out there too. But who gets you the most jazzed
No, no,
here?
forget about those other guys. Max Crosby gets me the most jazz, especially because he one's a local boy. Two, he wants to. He's mentioned in the past, if there was any other team other than the Raiders that I play with, it would definitely be the Lions. He's made some fairly cryptic kind of social media activity this week about liking a bunch of Michigan-based sports kind of things. So I don't want to. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but if if it's looking like it could be more and more of a possibility, and he would be absolutely would be a perfect fit for us. Um, Hassan Reddick, I think the Jets are going to end up working out a deal with him. I think Adam Schefter was reporting here this morning that it looks like they're going to do something with like along the lines of a one-term deal kind of thing.
Hmm.
It'll be curious to see what kind of money he gets because he held out for quite a bit. He stiffed his old agent, so I don't know if he's just recouping losses at this point, but I don't know. He seems like a clown, so I don't want him on my team. But definitely the Max Crosby, just because of the fit and kind of the what we're seeing as far as like the rumor mill going.
Yeah, definitely strikes me as a guy that would be sort of a Dan Campbell fit there from a culture perspective and things like that. And it is interesting too, because I wonder, I've seen a lot of different trade projections and things like that. And oftentimes you're seeing 2 first-round picks having to be exchanged for Max Crosby. He's definitely a player of good caliber, but like, when was the last? I mean, I guess one of the last people you saw go for 2 first-round picks was like Deshaun Watson or, uh, you know, uh, the trade between the Bears and the Panthers that ultimately got them Caleb Williams and things. So like, I don't. 2 first-round picks does seem a little steep for me. But the fact that we are seeing that there is this definite discord between Max Crosby and the Raiders, maybe it becomes a little. Maybe they don't have as much bargaining power or asking power as they
That's what I'm
thought they
thinking. I
had.
mean, especially
So,
because Devontae Adams, although he was an aging receiver, um, the Raiders had no leverage in that situation at all, and he ended
mhm.
up going for like a third round pick, was it?
Yep.
Which to me blows my mind. I thought at least a second round for that, but so based on that, and I don't know what's going on. The Raiders have kind of an interesting GM coaching ownership thing kind of going on. I could see it. I could see it happening. I would actually be okay with 2 first round picks because of the current situation that we're at. Our big pass rushing superstar is down. We are clearly in a championship contention window,
Mhm.
right? We have a lot of young talent. Our GM and our coaching staff looks like they can scout deep talent really well.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I would actually be okay if we wanted to be hyper aggressive here.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, and if Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes feel comfortable with that, that's fine. That's for me is the linchpin of it. Like if they're good with it, that works with me. I don't want to be that fan that's out there being like, yeah, you need to trade those 2 first, because if they don't feel comfortable with it, I don't feel comfortable with it. But if they're good, I'm good, because they definitely have helped build this team and position us where we are. So if they feel that that's the right move at this time, I'm not.
If this
I'm
were
willing to
Madden, I'm
let it
doing
play
it. If
out.
this were Madden, I'm doing it.
Leading your franchise to glory. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Jeffrey, we kind of talked about this one a little bit earlier, but the next topic is, how many teams from the NFC North do you think will make the playoffs this year?
Oh, man, that's gonna be tough because like I see really I kind of feel like the Bears might be the odd one out. Maybe I don't know because their defense looks pretty good, uh, but yeah, especially with the nature of the other divisions as far as their kind of second runner ups and what the wild card kind of situation is going to look like.
Mhm.
It's I could see I could see us making 3 teams, possibly 4. No, I'm going to say 3. I'm going to be more
Is
tepid. I'm going to
there
say 3. We'll say 3.
gonna say three? Do you think
Yeah.
there's a world where you could see all of the NFC North teams split their series division, so everybody gets one win, and then they beat everybody else?
Oh
So
man.
then they just, I mean, could such a world exist?
I mean, it very well could because, like I said, with the kind of the wild card spots as far as the rest of the NFC goes, it's wide open. So it could potentially be so, especially if these NFC teams, outside of cannibalizing each other, do well against the other teams.
Yeah, I think the division most likely to spoil the 4 team NFC North playoffs would probably be the NFC South right now. You have Tampa and Atlanta, who are definitely
Oh,
pretty strong there. So it's, could the 4th place NFC North team get in ahead of the 2nd place NFC South team, and that might be a little bit spicy.
yeah.
Uh,
Just last year, we were talking about the NFC South being a garbage division, and this year, pretty competitive.
Yeah, definitely making bringing Kirk Cousins in has certainly changed the change the arithmetic down there as you're looking to see who's getting in and who's getting out. So it's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting. Jeffrey, then of course, as mentioned, we have 2 undefeated teams left here, and this is, I guess, kind of a little bit of a preview of maybe where you're leaning towards your pick 'em here. But which undefeated team is more likely to lose this week? Or do you think they're both in trouble? The Chiefs are playing Kansas City in a Super Bowl rematch, and of course, Minnesota is playing the Lions here. So what are your thoughts?
I think Kansas City is going to beat the 49ers. So I think they're going to remain undefeated. And I think that Minnesota is the most vulnerable this week because I do believe that our Lions are going to take the victory here.
Oh,
I do
fantastic.
declare.
I see. I think this could be a week where we're both of them. We may no longer have an undefeated team after this week.
Oh, you think
I
Cincinnati can, or
I,
sorry, San Francisco can take out the Chiefs?
I think so because we saw Isaiah Likely in the first when the Ravens took on the Kansas City. He had himself a day, and of course now you have George Kittle with the with the 49ers going up against the Chiefs there. So George Kittle may be able to exploit what has shown to be one of the few weaknesses on this Kansas City defense. The defense has definitely been leading the way, and then that offense has just not looked good. And
Yeah.
so their offensive struggling. Patrick Mahomes not looking as good as he's looked in previous seasons. The 49ers, their defense is still pretty much intact and is one of the reasons why they are doing as well as they are, despite the offense being out of sync without having Christian McCaffrey. I think those two, I think we might see both teams go down this week. And what is it? I forget what year that Dolphins team is that went undefeated, but they'll finally get to pop their. I think it's the 72 Dolphins. They'll get to
Okay.
pop their champagne for remaining as the only
The only
undefeated
undefeated.
team
Yeah.
here in Week 7.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know. I really think that the Chiefs are gonna. I think San Francisco's offense is not running at its kind of full powers, especially against a really good Kansas City defense. So yeah, it's a toss up, but I don't know, man.
It's another good game as we continue to do. Is Brock Purdy a franchise quarterback? Seems to be like one of the questions that's still out there. So this is definitely another, I think, one of those games that helps the show. If he comes out and he plays well, certainly an indicator that yeah, he is that guy for them. If not, sooner or later they're going to have to show him the money. And this will be, I think, a important game in determining if they do ultimately decide to give him that payday. And then Jeffrey, our next question here, you sort of referenced it, the slot merchant, but George Pickens had the comments earlier this week about Amon-Ra St. Brown. What are your thoughts there about George Pickens talking about the Lions wide receiver and his quote slow start for the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's really rich coming from the guy who has less touchdown catches than Jared Goff this season. He seems to be I don't know, man. This guy is wild. He gives up on the field. He thinks very highly of himself. He doesn't produce to even be able to kind of walk the walk like Amon-Ra St. Brown does.
Mm-hmm.
And being a slot merchant, I had to actually ask you what that would mean because it's like, yeah, if someone's in the slot due to scheme, what does that matter? That person's producing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Your equivalent, he's more of an outside receiver. Like if you're out there, you should be receiving. Wait, somebody would call you a deep pass merchant? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I didn't realize that there was this animosity between receiver archetypes.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you're just a slot guy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. We'll get open more, then maybe we don't have to pass to the slot. Like,
yeah, definitely interesting there. And yeah, he's it's surprising how much success the Steelers have had despite having all of these sort of volatile characters here in recent years. I don't really know how Mike Tomlin manages to keep the wheels on the bus, having to manage some of the guys and personalities that he's had to, and including painfully our own Le'Veon Bell. He was one of those detractors there in camp, but somehow, some way, the majority of the Steelers team buys into to Coach Tomlin's message, and they just carry on.
It's really a testament to him and his coaching staff and over the years and kind of how he runs things. I mean, like as soon as some of these guys leave, like it gets ugly.
Yep. And none of those disgruntled guys have really gone on to really have productive careers post their Steeler time. So it is interesting. But then speaking of productivity, Jeffrey, we're talking a little bit there about Amon-Ra, the sun god himself. But he is for this game, he's projected to have 75.5 yards is the betting line. What do you think the chances here are of St. Brown surpassing the over there against the Vikings
Ooh.
today?
Man, I would say I'm gonna take this roaring. I'm gonna take the over on this one. I think
Gonna bang the over on
I'm
this
gonna,
one?
yeah, I am gonna bang the over. I think Amon Ra, although he won't say that like he means anything or is thinking about what's his face Pickens, but I think he goes out there, has another slot merchant, quote unquote, type game, and leads us to victory. I might be salty in that pick, but
Hey, I mean,
I'm going with
it's only 75.5, so he only has to get 76 yards to do it. So I'm there with
it.
you. I'm gonna roar for this one too. Actually, I'm gonna say I think he might be able to get over 100 himself too.
Ooh,
I
okay.
know I know JMO's currently leading the way with yardage, but I see this being a game where St. Brown helps step up and help get us this victory in a tough spot against a Vikings team. So I'm roaring with you. I think he covers that and then some. All right, Jeffrey. Now on to our lock of the week segment, Jeffrey. We're coming into this. You're at 3-2. I'm at 4-1, suffering my first loss last week because I went on the edge there. I thought Jaden Daniels and the Commanders team could come out and get that victory, and Jaden Daniels definitely held up his side of the coin. It was that defense that's a little suspect for the Commanders, but
Yeah.
they definitely stack up there against the Ravens, but Lamar Jackson and company were just too much there. But
It's too good.
just too good. But this week, Jeffrey, I'm setting my sights on a matchup that does include one of our NFC North rivals, and it's the Packers at home against Houston. The Packers are favored by 3 points in this game. Of course, Houston is still down Nico Collins. And so we did see Tank Dell step up a little bit last week for it. But I'm going with the Packers in this one, and mostly it is because of the fact that they don't have Nico Collins. I think if Nico Collins was there, that changes the math a little bit, in a not a little bit, in a significant way where I think it swings the other way, where Houston would probably be favored. But I'm going with the Packers in this one at home to take down Houston, and that is my lock of the week.
Oh
As
man,
they look to improve to that would be what 5-2 on the season for the Packers.
good thing your dad's not here with all the accusations of flip flopping on fan bases. All
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Packers picks makes a guy question.
You look at it, and Houston's been up and down, man, and it without Nico, it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, I agree. Like that kind of production is difficult. I know they have the guys to make up that production, but they've not been playing very. They've been playing very sloppy on offense so far. So,
And one of those guys is named Stephon Diggs, which
yeah,
is always an interesting,
yeah,
volatile situation.
yes. uh, so going to my lock of the week, I'm looking at staying in the NFC. Also, I'm looking at the Seattle versus Atlanta game. Atlanta is favored by 3 points. I think Seattle's been barely holding it together over there. I think Kirk Cousins goes in there and just surgically destroys them, just like Jared Goff did.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope you're right on this one because I did choose to start Darnell Mooney in my flex over Kareem
Oh,
Hunt.
yes.
So I'm hoping that Mooney has himself a day, powered by Kirk Cousins. But yeah, I think that's a spicy one because Seattle certainly got off to a hot start. They were one of the undefeated teams until they ran into the Lions,
Mhm.
and we were able to get revenge for the last couple of seasons.
Yep.
Um,
Plus, yeah, Atlanta's running the ball more because they want
mhm.
to work in because another good play action quarterback in Kirk Cousins. So they're going to be running the ball more. And Seattle has absolutely been just putrid against the run. We just destroyed them. So it will be, I think it'll be handily won by the home team in Atlanta.
I like it. Locking in the Falcons and Captain Kirk. Nice pick there. Nice pick. All right, Jeffrey. That leads us to the last part of today's episode, and that is selecting our winners here for the Detroit Minnesota game. Of course, this game is being played at 1 o'clock today, so the early window. Uh, Jeffrey, who do you got in this matchup?
Oh, it's going to be Detroit. I think it's going to be another one-score game as far as at the end of the game. Didn't expect that with the Dallas game, so I'll take another blowout if possible. But I don't think it's going to happen this time. Minnesota looks like an actual team, so I think it's going to be a one-score game here. And I think we go into Minnesota with kind of rallying around the loss of our defensive end and keep rolling and doing what we're doing.
They go in there and win one for Hutch. I like it. I like it. I am also going to pick Detroit in this game, but I will admit that it is sort of a stacked. It is a stacked thing against them. I know Minnesota's only favored by a point, which is odd for a home team. But when you look at it, they had a whole week to prepare for the Lions coming in here, so that gives them an advantage. Obviously, you have the Hutchinson injury, and the Lions. This will be the first week that they've had a chance to put anything in place to try and reproduce some of that production that he was having. The Vikings have also looked good on the season. They're 5-0 for a reason. So there's a lot in favor of the Vikings in this one, and of course it is a home game too, so it's being played in Minnesota. So there's plenty of reasons to like the Vikings in this one, Jeffrey. But to your point, the Lions offense, I think this is the first time that this Vikings defense has played against an offense of this caliber. It is going to be kind of interesting. The unknown is the Lions defense, how they respond to the injury, how they're able to sort of apply pressure to the quarterback, whether that be through just the interior of the line or by bringing blitzes and different coverage packages and things like that. But I definitely think that, again, you talked about earlier, one of the overall strengths of this team is just the consistency we've had between head coach and our two offense and defensive coordinator being here. The team is in midseason, is trending towards midseason form. We have the consistency of having that leadership in place. I think I think they can get this done. If there's any team that can overcome something like this, I think it is a team like the Lions, a team that is very solid in their identity, in their culture, has belief in what they're doing, and has seen results. Like, it's not just like, we just believe they've believed they can, they've done it. And so I think that helps to it. It's not just like, we think we can do it, so we'll do it. It's not only we think we can do it, but we've walked the walk before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that definitely helps them as they look to try and overcome what is, losing Hutchinson is a big deal. It is a hard thing for them to overcome. And we saw that with the odds for them winning the Super Bowl. I think that's rightfully there taking a hit. But the first step to proving people wrong is today against this Vikings team. And I think they have a great opportunity to come out here. And, last week, I think they made a pretty good statement against, taking down the Cowboys in the manner in which they did.
Mm-hmm.
Here is just another opportunity to really say, not only did we make the Cowboys look like clowns, but we came out here and beat, this is the second time we've beaten an undefeated NFC team this year. And we've come out and really shown that we are the best team in the NFC. We are the top contenders. And so, I've said it before on the show, I'll say it again. One of the big differences between this Lions team and Lions teams when I was growing up is the fact that this Lions team capitalizes on opportunities. They don't, obviously no team is ever going to be 100%, but more often than not, this Detroit Lions team with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes has found a way to take advantage of the opportunities that they're provided. And this is a great chance for them to come out and really say that we are the flagship team in the NFC this season. Yes, we lost Hutchinson. It sucks, but that doesn't change. We're still on mission. We're on target, and no one's going to stop us, including our rival Vikings. So
Right.
I think this could be a pretty, like, if this is a win, I think it's a pretty big roaring announcement for the Lions coming out here and sort of staking their claim,
Yeah.
not only over the NFC North, but over the NFC in general, saying that we are here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go out there and take this throne. At least
Yeah,
for 1 week.
I am excited. Yeah, this is a big moment for them, and so hopefully, we see them come out here and just again capitalize on the opportunity they've been given, because this is a great chance here to show what they're made of. All right, Jeffrey. we want to thank everybody here who's been tuning in today. It was great to see Blade in chat interacting with us, and welcome to the show. I know it was, I think it's the first time we've seen you here, but we are coming to you live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So whichever one of those platforms are your favorite, we are live on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Although, Jeffrey, we're going to have to talk about that because I am flying out of town for work this upcoming Tuesday, so we might have to change upcoming Tuesday just slightly. But usually 6:30 on Tuesdays and then 11 on Sundays are our usual time for the shows. And then, of course, we do also have we're available on Spotify. So if you do prefer to listen to us in podcast form, you can go ahead and catch the shows on Spotify as well. And then clips, you'll see them on clips and reels, I guess, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So there are plenty of channels out there for you. So however you like to interact with our content in whatever format, we have a lot of different options out there for you. And if you do enjoy the show and want to help the channel grow, whatever platform you're on, liking, subscribing, following, all that good stuff definitely helps us out quite a bit. And we thank you for your support as we look to continue to build this great community we got going, Jeffrey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Love spending time with you a couple times a week to chat about football, and happy that the Lions are doing good during this time. Because man, I was not on the show during the dark years, so more power to Kevin, man. More power to Kevin.
I mean, that sort of was the crucible that which took me from being a Packers fan to being a Lions fan, because I had to sit here and cover them every week, and I was like, I became sympathetic because usually it was enjoyable when I wasn't having to do a podcast about the Lions getting beat up on, and it was just like, oh yeah, the Packers are doing what they're doing. But when you're there and you're wanting to be able to say nice things about the team and be like happy with where they're trending. I think you see it with Mike Valeni on 97 won the ticket here in the Detroit area. He's a New York fan. He's a Giants fan, but even though he's grown up and is a Giants fan, like he very much wants to see the Lions succeed and make it to the Super Bowl. And covering them for as many years as he has, obviously you become very empathetic to the struggle of people who have been lifelong Lions fans and things like that, seeing the struggles they have to go through. And let me tell you, those Matt Patricia years were some struggles. So I definitely, for people who have been Lions fans their entire life, I give you props because especially for people, around our age, Jeffrey, I think right now is probably the best time to be an NFL fan because you have just access to like all the games through various means now. But even at least through like our childhood and things like that growing up, we've had more. It wasn't just you had exposure to your local market team and then like the national games. Like we were at least able to start seeing, follow teams outside of just our local market. So if you've stayed true to the Lions through that whole process where you could go out and be a fan of whatever team you wanted, and and this was the place you chose to plant your flag, credit to you, because there's been some dark moments. But hey, it's better days now. So it's
now we're on the other side of the fence and we can laugh at the teams like the Jets and the Browns.
We look at those organizations. Yeah. How horrible they must be to one of their fans. It's nice to no longer be part of that discussion. It certainly is. All right, everybody. Well, one thing left for us to do here, Jeffrey, before we sign off, and that is a Go Lions.
Go Lions.
And hopefully we'll see you guys on Tuesday as we celebrate a Lions victory over the Vikings. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, everyone, and we'll catch you during the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.